Hey guys, this is Nick coming at you again with my competitive, updated F.A. Metalfoes deck profile post-Lightning Overdrive. I know I posted a deck profile about a week ago post-Lightning Overdrive. However, since then, I've had a little bit more time to test with the deck, not only online, but in person as well at my locals. And I've gotten some feedback from some friends, and through testing, I've actually made a couple of minor tweaks to the deck. And right now, I'm actually very happy with where the deck is in terms of its consistency, as well as its ceiling, in terms of like power and the ability to play through disruption, its resiliency and whatnot. I personally think that this deck's current form is probably the most consistent and resilient it's ever been since its inception, and I'm just really excited to bring you this updated profile, and that way you guys can see what I've been working with. This deck is still a casual deck at heart, obviously. However, I am playing some very high impact cards in here that can help this deck compete with the current meta, with decks such as Dragon Link, Tri-Brigade, even Drytron, for example. What else? You have Eldritch, Shaddoll Invoked. This deck, I've actually tested against quite a few different strategies, and it's fared pretty well against even some of the top tier decks in the format. So it's got a very high ceiling, and it's just really fun to play. So I just want to bring you guys this profile, and hopefully you guys like it just as much as I do. But let's go ahead and dive in. I've been playing this deck, I would say, for a few months now. Actually, well, I would say longer than that, because I've been piloting this deck ever since Legacy of the Duelist came out on the Nintendo Switch. But obviously a lot of time has passed since then. But let's go ahead and jump into the monster cards. Let's start off with the F.A. monsters in the main deck. We are playing 3 copies of F.A. Auto Navigator. She is your starter as well as your extender. Probably one of the most insane cards I've ever read in my life. When she's normal or special summon, she lets you add a F.A. field spell from deck to hand. As you know, this is a field spell archetype, so they live and die by their field spells. Then she can special summon herself from the hand or graveyard by targeting an F.A. monster whose level is higher than its original. You reduce that monster's level to its original, then her level becomes the amount that was reduced. So she's a tuner monster that modulates levels and searches a field spell on summon. She's just insane. You play 3 of her, no questions asked, no debating. Our next main deck F.A. monster is 2 copies of F.A. Hang On Mach. He is really cool, being able to gain levels every time an F.A. spell, trap, or effect is activated. That is not once per turn. This guy can get to some really insane heights in terms of his level. He also gains 300 attack times his level, and if he's level 7 or higher, any card sent from your opponent's side of the field to their grave is banished instead. So he's literally a huge floodgate, and he offers a little bit of self-protection because he's unaffected by activated effects of monsters whose level or rank is lower than his. He's just an insane all-around card, and also helps you go into some really nice synchro plays, just like Auto Navigator does. And then for our last main deck F.A. monster, we are playing the 1 Dark Dragster. We play this at 1 simply because you can't control more than 1 on field, and it's a bit of a brick. Like if you open this card, unless you're able to fulfill its summoning requirement, it's not that great to open with. I don't want to call it a garnet necessarily, because there are times when you open this and it's actually not bad. It just depends on how your hand looks. However, it can special summon itself if you control an F.A. monster who's level 7 or higher. So because of that being just a free body on board, it's really nice to play as a 1-of. And it can reduce its level by 3 to target a card in the field and destroy it. So going first, it can help you pop your spells. Going second, it can help you deal with opponent's threats like back row or bait some negations or whatnot. So it's really cool just to have as a 1-of. It also gains 300 attack times its level, so it can get pretty big. And then he gains 1 level every time an F.A. spell, trap, or effect's activated. So that's our main deck F.A. monster package. Very small, but with all the testing I've done, this is the perfect number to run. You really don't need to have any more than that. So let's dive into our field spells, because as you know, this is a field spell based strategy, and they do play several field spells that are pretty cool. So our first field spell is going to be a copy of our UA Hyper Stadium. This card's interesting because it's always treated as an F.A. card. However, it doesn't function the same way the other field spells in the archetype do, because it doesn't float on destruction, and it doesn't actually give your F.A. monsters levels during a particular phase. What it does do, however, is on activation, it lets you add an F.A. monster from deck to hand. So it searches you a monster on activation. It's great. And then the secondary effect is you can reveal a field spell in your hand, pay 1,000 life points, and if you do, you can normal summon an FA monster in addition to your normal summoner set this turn. So it's literally, it goes +1 on activation, and it gives you a double summon effect while it's on the field. Really great field spell. I don't play 3 of it, and that's because this card does not float when it's destroyed by a card effect like the other ones do, so it doesn't net you advantage beyond the point of activation. And not only that, it's also a hard once per turn on activation, which the other field spells in the theme are not. So that's kind of a bummer too, so that's why I just played 2 copies of it. But with all the searchability that the deck has, I'm able to access this card whenever I need it, because keep in mind it is a field spell, so Auto Navigator can search it at any time, as well as any of the other field spells when they're destroyed by a card effect. So 2 copies is fine. The next field spell we're playing is 1 copy of Circuit Grand Prix. Circuit Grand Prix, in my opinion, I would say is the weakest of the spells. However, that doesn't mean that it's terrible. It gives your FA monsters 2 levels during the battle phase, which is nice. It helps them beat over things that they normally wouldn't be able to beat over, since they gain attack times their level. And then when they do destroy a monster by battle, you get to draw a card, which is nice. However, it doesn't give your FA monsters levels in the main phase, and that's the phase where you're usually comboing off. So as a result of that, I'm only playing 1 of this. However, if it's destroyed by a card effect, it does let you search any FA card from deck to your hand except a copy of itself, so having the 1 of is nice. Then we're playing 2 copies of Off-Road Grand Prix. Off-Road Grand Prix grants your FA monsters 2 levels during the main phase. It does have a secondary effect where if your FA monster is destroyed by battle by an opponent's card, you get to discard a random card from their hand, but to be honest with you, that effect never really comes up. And then it also floats on destruction, just like Circuit Grand Prix does, into any FA card, which is nice. And then for the last field spell, we are on 3 copies of City Grand Prix, probably the best field spell in my opinion. It gives your FA monsters 2 levels during the main phase and the battle phase, so it's almost like a combination of Circuit and Off-Road combined. And then it has a bonus effect where while this is on the field, your opponent cannot target FA monsters you control with card effects. So it gives them targeting protection, and then this card also floats on destruction, being able to search you any FA card from deck to hand except a copy of itself when it's destroyed. So it's really, really cool. There's 8 field spells in total. It seems like a lot, but trust me, with all the destruction you have going on with the Metalfoes engine, you're going to run through a lot of them, and they help also boost your consistency by being able to add whatever you need. Then for our quick play spells, we're on 2 copies of FA Test Run. Really simple card. You target an FA monster on the field, change its battle position, and then you destroy 1 card on the board. The destruction does not target. The only thing that targets is the FA monster you're targeting on activation. So it's non-target pop on field, and then while it's in the graveyard, you can banish it from grave to target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and then you can special summon an FA monster straight from your deck. So it's really, really cool. I play it as a 2 of because it is a hard once per turn on both effects. But again, with all the searchability that the deck has, it's really nice to have at 2. I basically just search it whenever I need it, and I can activate it going second to break boards, or if I have it going first, I can set it and then activate it on my opponent's turn as a form of disruption, which is nice. And then we're on 1 copy of FA Pit Stop. Pit Stop's on-field effect is kind of meh, in my opinion. It just targets an FA monster on board, it reduces its level by 2, and then you basically just draw 1 card. It's a +1. Well, not even. It's more of just like a break even. But what I mainly like with this card is the grave effect, where you can banish this card from the graveyard, and it targets an FA in grave and special summons it. So it's like a Monster Reborn for the theme in Archetype, which is nice because you can search it whenever you want. And that's pretty much it for the FA side of the deck. That totals all the monsters and all the spells we're playing for the FA section. It's really, really fun. And now you're going to see why we're playing Metalfoes in this strategy. And that's because the Metalfoes all share a very similar effect. We're on 2 copies of Bismugear, 2 copies of steelen, and then 2 copies of silvered. Pretty much the Metalfoes, what they function as is like pseudo copies of Ancient Fairy Dragon. What they allow you to do is they all share the exact same pendulum effect. And what that is they can, once per turn, target a face-up card I control, destroy it, and if I do, I can set a Metalfoes spell trap directly from the deck to my field. So what I use the Metalfoes for is I use them to blow up all of my FA field spells, and I basically go +2 when that happens because I get a search off the Metalfoes effect, and then the field spell was popped, so then I get to search a FA card from deck to hand as well. So it's really, really nice. And then while you're doing all of this, you're activating FA effects. So all of your FA monsters are gaining levels, and you're able to go into some really cool synchro plays. So that's pretty much how the deck works. You'll basically keep blowing up your field spells and then searching everything you need to make your full combo. So I play 2 Bismugear, 2 steelen, and then the 2 silvered. Note that steelen and Bismugear are my high scales, being 8, and silvereds are 1 scale. Bismugear is an effect monster. It's funny because steelen and silvered are vanillas, they're normal monsters. But Bismugear's monster effect is cool. If it's destroyed by battle or by card effect, during the end phase of the turn, I get to add a Metalfoes monster from deck to hand, which is nice. And then I play 1 copy of the parametalfoes melcaster and 1 copy of Metalfoes vanisher. Melcaster functions as my another low scale for me in the deck. And then vanisher is a brand new card out of Blazing Vortex, just like Melcaster is. Melcaster's nice because it has the exact same pendulum effect like the other ones do. That they can pop a face-up card and then set a spell trap. And then the monster effect is like the reverse of Bismugear. If Melcaster is destroyed by battle or card effect, I get to add a Metalfoes monster that's face-up in my extra deck to my hand. So that's pretty cool. And then Vanisher is nice. It's just insane. The pendulum effect doesn't really come up as much in this build. What I mainly use this card for is the monster effect. If it's special summoned by a Metalfoes card, it can target a monster on your opponent's field or in their graveyard and banish it. And then, while it's in my hand, I can target 2 face-up cards I control, including a Metalfoes card, destroy them both, and special summon this card. So he has, if you use his effect in hand, it triggers his on-field monster effect to banish something, which is nice, because he's summoned by a Metalfoes card. But there's other ways that you can special this straight out of your deck with some of the Metalfoes spells and trap support, which we'll get into right now. So that's it for the Metalfoes monsters in the main deck. It's a really, really good engine, honestly. Like, they pair really nicely with FA, being able to, like, pop your spells and go plus, because they don't restrict you or lock you into any, like, archetypes or summoning restrictions. So that's really, really nice to have the freedom to be able to, like, combo off like that and go into whatever you want from the extra deck. We are on 1 copy of Parametalfoes Fusion for our Metalfoes spells. It's just a fusion spell, but it allows you to use 1 material up to each from your hand, field, and or face up in the extra deck. So that's really nice. Then we're on 1 copy of Metalfoes Fusion. Again, it lets you fusion summon a Metalfoes monster from your extra deck using materials from the hand or field. And then while it's in the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into the deck to then draw 1 card. So it's really cool to get that free recursion in that Prix +1 almost every turn. Then we're on 2 copies of Metalfoes Counter. Metalfoes Counter is nice because if a card or cards I control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, I get to special summon a Metalfoes monster directly from my deck. And that's actually how I get my access to my Vanisher during the opponent's turn. If they start to break my board, I can chain counter in response and just special a Vanisher. And then because he was special summoned by a Metalfoes card, I can banish a monster from their field or grave. So it's like a really nice form of disruption. And then counter has a secondary effect where I can banish it from the graveyard to add a Metalfoes Pendulum monster that's face up in my extra deck to my hand. Really, really cool overall. And then the last Metalfoes trap we're playing is 1 copy of Metalfoes Combination. Combination's really nice. Its on-field effect really doesn't come up that much. It's like a worse Monster Reborn, I guess. What I mainly use this card for is the Grave effect, where if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, I get to add a Metalfoes monster from the deck to my hand. So it's like a Rota when it's sent. So that's really, really cool. So that's our Metalfoes package with the deck. It's only 5 spells and traps, and that's really all you need. Trust me, I've been testing this a lot, and any more than that and you start to brick on stuff. So running everything at a 1 of, with the exception of counter, is a really good ratio. Now we're on to our just generic stuff. We're playing 2 copies of War of Thou. We play a lot of level 1s in this deck. So War of Thou is just really, really nice, being able to just add any level 1 monster from deck to hand. It's not once per turn either, so really, really cool card overall. Then we're on 1 Call by the Grave, because we are playing a combo-centric deck, and we want to be able to, play through our opponent's hand traps and whatnot. Kind of sucks that this is at 1 only. But, you play it, if you open it, fantastic. If you have full combo and called by, you're pretty much insulated and are able to, make your board without much issue. Then we're on one Despot 1, just because it's an insane tuner, and we are playing Halka-Fibrax in our extra deck, so Despot 1 go burr. Then we're playing one copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Coltwing, because again, we are playing the Halka-Fibrax combo, and Coltwing's pretty crucial to that. However, I do want to point out that sometimes people play this Halka-Fibrax Auroradon combo, and if they draw the Coltwing, it's pretty much a Garnet, and like it's just a total brick. They have no way to full combo. That's not the case with this deck, because I am playing Metalfoes. Metalfoes are pendulum monsters, so I am actually able to set up a pendulum scale, and if I draw the Coltwing, I can just pendulum summon it from my hand. So like, to be honest, there are situations where I draw this, and I'm not pissed, because it doesn't screw me up. Like, I'm still able to put it on the board without, you know, sacking my normal summon or anything. So that's really, really nice. And then for the last main... Well, actually, I lied. For the second to last main deck monster we're playing is triple copies of Magician Souls. This is just an insane extender. Unfortunately, there really is no replacement for this card right now. There's nothing that does what this card can do without restricting you in some way, shape, or form. It's just insane. It specials itself for free by dumping a level 6 or higher spellcaster, which I'm playing Chronograph Sorcerer as my target. But Magician Souls is just really strong. Just being able to help you extend through disruptions, and since I'm playing Wear-Off-Thou in the deck, it's almost like I'm playing 5 copies of Souls. You have to understand that, like, our main starter slash extender, which is Auto Navigator, is a level 1. Souls is level 1. Then we're playing our 2 copies of Bismugear, which is also level 1. So we can, like, search a scale, we can search Auto Nav, we can search Souls. It's just free real estate, honestly. Wear-Off-Thou is really, really cool. And not only can it search those 3 cards, but it can also search the hand trap that we're playing in this deck, which is Droll and Lockbird. This is a brand new addition to this deck. I was actually playing Ash Blossom before, and to be honest with you, Ash is good, but I just feel that with the current meta, Ash just doesn't do enough. There's decks that can play through Ash like it's nothing, so I decided to go all in and play the Drolls, because Droll will end turns. Hands down. If you Droll your opponent, like 80% of the time, they literally can't make whatever board they were trying to go into, because like it just shuts them down completely. And it is a level 1 monster. So if I open full combo, but I draw Wear-Off-Thou, I can just Wear-Off-Thou for the Droll and have a disruption next turn for free. It's so stupid. So, like I said, this deck is really, really fun to play. It's 42 cards in the main deck. And honestly, every time I play this deck, I have such a good time. And everyone that I've dueled against at my locals always tells me that this deck looks really fun, and that they don't expect it to make the boards that I'm able to make with it. So, obviously I'm doing something right, because a lot of people seem to think the deck is pretty cool. So, you know, hey, more power to me, I guess, for, you know, being able to come up with the strategy and kind of perfect it. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Like I said, it is 42 cards in the main. Now let's jump off into our extra deck, because here we are playing some pretty cool stuff. We are on 1 copy of fullmetalfoes Alkahest and 1 copy of Metalfoes Mithrilium. These are the only 2 Metalfoes extra deck cards we are playing. You know, there's Orichalc, there's the new Azortlis, there's even the Crimsonite and Adamante, I think, or I don't know, whatever the level 5 one is. To be honest, all those cards don't do that much for you in terms of advantage. In my opinion, Alkahest and Mithrilium are the best fusions for the Metalfoes theme, because they have the most impact. Alkahest, if you make it going first, is literally just a snatch steal on your opponent's turn as a quick effect, and that's some of the best form of disruption, aside from just like hard negation. Being able to like take an opponent's resource and it just equip it to this card is really funny, because it doesn't go to the graveyard, so they can't even use it as a grave resource either. So Alkahest is just really hilarious, and it's really easy to make in this deck as well, because the materials aren't that difficult. It just requires a Metalfoes monster and a normal monster, which, in case you didn't know, tokens are treated as normal monsters, and I happen to special a lot of tokens in this deck during my combo, you know, with running the Mecha Phantom Beast, Auroradon, and Halka-Fibrax combo. So Alkahest is not difficult to summon whatsoever. Then Mithrilium is nice. Again, just requiring a Metalfoes monster and a Pendulum monster's material. She's 2600 attacks, which is pretty big for a level 6. And then she can bounce cards on the field back to the hand and also shuffle Metalfoes cards from the grave back into my deck. So she can get rid of disruptions or bait negates and also recur resources from my graveyard to keep fueling my Metalfoes engine with spells and traps. She's really, really awesome. And when she leaves the field, doesn't matter how she leaves. Your opponent could kaiju this card. The grave effect will still trigger. If she's sent from field to the graveyard, you can special summon either face up from your extra deck or from your graveyard a Metalfoes Pendulum monster. So mithrilium is just really, really cool. I honestly can't express how awesome both of these cards are in the deck. They're really, really fun to play. So now moving on to our Synchro package. We are running 1 copy of Crystron Quandax. Quandax is nice. I'm going to be totally real with you guys. I only play this card because it's a level 4 Synchro tuner. And that's all I needed it for. I just needed a level 4 tuner that I could go into from the extra deck. Outside of that, it really doesn't serve any other purpose. So yeah, 1 copy of Quandax. Then we are on 1 copy of Garden Rose Flora. This is brand new out of Lightning Overdrive. This card is the nuts. Holy crap. I know it's Rose Dragon support, but this card in FAs is so silly. Basically, it can target a field spell on the field and destroy it to special summon a Rose token to the board. Hello? All of my field spells trigger when they're destroyed. So this is literally just easy extra deck access to pop a field spell and then special a token to my side of the field. And not only does she do that, but she can also quick synchro during my opponent's turn. So this card enables some really funky stuff, and I just love playing this. Honestly, it's probably my favorite addition to the deck, to the extra deck, within the most recent, changes that I've made. So Flora is really, really fun. Obviously, we're playing 1 copy of Dawn Dragster. It's an FA deck, so you're playing the FA boss monster. It's a spell trap negate. It does piercing damage. It gains attack times its level. It gains levels each time an FA spell or trap's activated. It just does everything you need. Really, really cool card. So yeah, you play Dawn Dragster. Then we're playing 1 copy of Black Rose Dragon because it's just a generic level 7 synchro we can make, and it nukes the entire board. So what's not to like? Also, Black Rose is really cool and it looks amazing. This artwork is so cool. I would like a Starlight Rare, but I don't have Starlight Rare money right now, so right now all we can settle for is the Ultra. But maybe one day, folks. Then we're also on 1 copy of Cyber's Quantum Dragon. This is another generic level 7 synchro we can go into that has a really cool effect, actually. If I control a Link monster, the opponent can't target monsters I control for attacks except him, and the opponent cannot target monsters I control with card effects except this. So it lightning rods itself if I control a Link monster. And then the secondary effect is, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles, he can return the monster it's battling to the hand. That's non-target, non-destruction removal, so this can even out something like a Dragoon, assuming you baited its negation. And that's not even all it does. It can actually attack again in a row if it uses that effect. So if you're using this proactively, you can basically battle into something, bounce it back to the hand, and then attack again with this card. It's so cool. Quantum Dragon's really nice. Then we're on 1 copy of High Speed Red Kite Drake. Really cool level 8 synchro. I can play this because Auto Navigator is a Wind Machine tuner, which this does require in its material. And this card has 2 effects. It nukes the whole board on summon, or it Dark Rulers your opponent permanently. That includes back row. This card is so damn insane. Really fun card. It's also spiking in price from what I understand with the new Speedward support we have coming soon. So if you want to play Kite Drake, or you're able to play it, I'd pick up your copies ASAP. 1 copy of Cypher Immortal Omega because Omega is just an insane card. It hand loops your opponent. It dodges removal. It recovers banished resources. It does everything you need. Omega's limited for a reason, and it's just a really great generic level 8 synchro to play. If you have access to it, play it. Then we're on 1 copy of Borlo Savage Dragon. In my opinion, probably the most powerful generic level 8 synchro in the game right now. Just being able to set up Omni Negations for practically free, and also having this card gain insane amounts of attack, just making it a really big threat for your opponent to deal with. Then we're on one copy of FA Motorhome Transport, the second boss monster in the FA theme. Motorhome Transport's really hilarious. It gains attack times its level. It gains a level every time an FA spell trap's activated. Then if it's level 11 or higher, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. And if it's level 13 or higher, it's a once per turn monster reborn for an FA card or FA monster in the grave. So this card's really silly. I've gotten to a point where this card was like at level 18. It like couldn't be targeted because I had City Grand Prix on the board. It was just indestructible. It had like 5,400 attack. Like the opponent just couldn't out it, and they ended up scooping. So it's pretty funny. I'm on one copy of Virtual World Shen, just because it's a really good generic level 9 synchro I can make. And there's a lot of decks in the format right now that rely on their graveyard resources. So Shen just says no. And it can also revive itself if they out it by banishing 2 monsters from the grave with different types and attributes, which FAs are wind machines and Metalfoes are fire psychics. So like you have the perfect combination already. So yeah, Shen's really cool. And we're also on one copy of the brand new Ruddy Rose Dragon from Lightning Overdrive. This card is a blowout against the opponent. Not only does it banish both players' graveyards on summon, but if it's used, if you used a plant synchro monster or Black Rose Dragon as material, you can actually nuke the board as well when this card is summoned. So it's just an insane blowout card. And it also has a third effect where if your opponent would activate a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards in the field, you can tribute this monster and special summon the Black Rose Dragon from your extra deck or graveyard. Now, unfortunately, Black Rose Dragon won't trigger its effect to nuke the board, and that's because it has to be synchro summoned in order for it to do that. But that's still okay. Ruddy Rose is really, really fun to play in this deck. I do hate the name. I wish they kept it Blood Rose Dragon, but whatever, I don't work for Konami, so I guess they can name it whatever they want to name it. But it's our first really good generic level 10 synchro, in my opinion. Like, it's got a really strong effect, and I personally feel like a lot of people are overlooking this card, because I can even make this during their turn mid-combo, and this just screws them up so bad, especially since there's so many decks right now that heavily rely on the graveyard as a resource. You know, Dragon Link relies on their graveyard a lot. Eldritch, the whole damn deck plays out the graveyard. Shaddoll, they need their graveyard. Invoked needs the graveyard. Tri-Brigade, they need their graveyard in order for them to be able to link summon. Special summon their links, I should say. Every single deck in the format needs their grave. So when you drop a Ruddy Rose Dragon and you banish their entire graveyard, they're screwed. They literally can't do jack shit to you. So Ruddy Rose is really awesome. Play it if you have it, access to it, or if you can make a generic 10. It's definitely a card you should consider running. It's really fun, and I have not regretted playing this card since I pulled it out of Lightning Overdrive. Then for our last 2 extra deck slots, no surprise, we're on one copy of Hulk and one copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon to facilitate our Hulk Auroradon combo. If you don't know how the combo works, basically you summon Hulk, special summon Dustbot from deck, then link both of those off for Auroradon. Auroradon summons 3 tokens, triggering Dustbot's grave effect, and then you're basically off to the races from there. So that's it for the extra deck, guys. Let's go into my side deck briefly, so you guys can get an idea of what I'm running in the side. I personally think my side deck is the strongest it's been, ever. So I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But we're on 3 copies of Godarla the Mystery Dust Kaiju. We're playing this because of Tri-Brigade Lyralusk. They tend to want to lock you under the Wind Barrier statue. And unfortunately, Godarla is the only wind attribute kaiju. If it wasn't for Tri-Brigade Lyralusk, I would probably just be playing Gamma Seals just because they're easier to hit over, but you kind of don't have a choice, you have to run this. But it's still a good, like, Kaiju's just a Kaiju. You know, whenever you're playing against a deck that summons like a Towers or a monster that's just really difficult to out, Kaiju it, bro. There's very few monsters that can't be Kaiju, so Kaiju is just a generic catch-all for most threats you're going to come across. Then we're on one copy of Wind Pegasus at Ignister. In the side, I feel like this card is kind of situational. That's why I'm side decking it instead of main decking it. It's like a Mystical Space Typhoon on legs, so it pops the spell trap on field. And then while it's in the graveyard, it can banish itself if a card or cards you control is destroyed by battle or card effect. It can banish itself from grave to target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. So it's got some niche use. This is really good to put in when you're going up against back row matchups, because it's just like a generic 7 you can make that pops back row, so we can like force out like stuff that they might have or bait negates or whatever. And then it has a nice disruption effect. But I'm also running this in the side deck because of Dogmatica. There's a lot of variants that are still running Maximus, and this card is really funny to send when they activate Maximus because it just punishes them really hard. So 1 copy of Wind Pegasus. Then we are on triple copies of Dark Ruler No More, because unfortunately we're in a format that's very break my board-esque. So when your opponent goes first and they set up 15 negates, you just look at them in their eye and drop this, and they kind of cry in the corner, I guess. Dark Ruler is just an insane card. You need to play 3 of it this format. No questions asked. Then we're on 2 copies of Twin Twisters. The reason why I'm playing this and not Cyclones is because I can actually use the Twin Twisters to nuke my field spells, which is nice. So there are some niche interactions here that benefit me playing Twisters over Cosmic Cyclone. But then we're also on 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster as well. So this is more like my, my spell trap removal lineup. If I'm going against a back row heavy matchup, you decide this in. Then I'm on 1 copy of Raigeki, just because it's really good to like bait out negates. And if your opponent doesn't have negates, it just blows out their entire field. Against the Tri-Brigade deck, if they set up like the Samorg Link with like a barrier statue and maybe like a Zodiac Dryden or something like that, you just Raigeki their whole board. They don't really have an answer to stop it. So it's kind of funny. Raigeki is still really, really good and no one's playing it. So might as well run it. Then I'm on triple copies of Evenly Matched, just because it also functions as back row removal and like just it clears boards. If I like Dark Ruler the opponent and Evenly Match them, it usually just ends turns. So Evenly Matched is just an insane card overall. And then for the last card on the side is just 1 copy of Red Reboot, because there's a lot of traps in this format, and Red Reboot just says no and helps you OTK. So that's it for the profile, guys. Let me know what y'all think. Again, this is my updated FA Metalfoes deck profile post Lightning Overdrive. I will be uploading a combo tutorial for this deck really soon, so stay tuned for that, because I really want to show you guys the kind of boards this deck can make, because it actually might catch you by surprise. This deck is really strong, and I'm having a hell of a time playing it, so stay tuned. Again, like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below.